Welcome to Literature Out Loud, sponsored by RMU Radio and Room, the Robert Morris University Literary Magazine. I'm John Lawson, Professor of English Studies at Robert Morris. Today my guest is RMU's visiting Rooney Scholar, Mr. Luca Guardabascio. Luca hails from Rome, Italy. He's a filmmaker, director, writer, and actor whose area of expertise is Italian cinema. His special interests include neo-realist films, such as those of Visconti and Rossellini, Italian political cinema, documentaries and comedies, as well as new Italian cinema. He's also the author of 5 books. Luca Guardabascio, welcome to Literature Out Loud.
Thank you, John. It's a real honor for me to be here today.
I'd like to focus today on the relationship between literature and cinema, and I'd like to start by asking you about your own literary and cinematic beginnings. Take us back to your roots. How did you get involved in writing and film?
Well, my roots come directly from my mother and my father, because my mother, she's a French teacher. She teaches literature, and my father teach art. And so when I was a baby, I saw all the time this paint in my house, and my mother that start to explain a lot of story, but not just the fairy tale like Cinderella, Snow White, but she started to me explain the Odyssey, the Iliad by Homero. So I was very curious. So I asked about Shakespeare, I asked about La Chanson de Roland, La Chanson de Geste, King Arthur. So you know, a baby 3-4 years old, all this information on the mind, on brain, and when you are a baby, you want to act that part. So you start to invent some story with your imagination, and then you want to act. And I remember that all the time I can act 3 different characters. One was Charlie Chaplin with my little mustache here. Another one was Oliver Hardy with my hair here. I don't have a lot of hair now, but at that time I had a lot of hair. And another one was Adolf Hitler. In this way, but with the same mustache. Yeah. And I remember all the audience. So when I was 3, 4, 5 with my cousin, my sister, we start to have this kind of activity for the relatives, for the family. And my roots come directly from the Greek mythology, because I love that story. I love Persephone, I love Zeus, I love Pluto, and the Arpia. I don't know the exact term in English, but I know the Italian word. So I love Apollo. I love that kind of literature.
Oh yeah. How about early films from your childhood?
Well, when I was a child, we saw a lot of American movies. We saw, because in Italy, I remember that time, my father was a big fan of Steve McQueen. So we start to see Steve McQueen, that today, if you want to show to a baby that are 4 or 5 years old, they really don't understand a lot, because it's a little bit violent. But in Italy, our roots come from the American cinema. I come specifically in my own life from Laurel and Hardy, Abbott and Costello, Jerry Lewis, the Marx Brothers, much more than the Three Stooges, much more than the other. So I grew up with this thing, and so I began in the cinema when I was 13 with my little camera to make some parodia, and my point of reference was director like Jerry Lewis, because Jerry Lewis is a total filmmaker for me. He's not just a comedian. If you see every single scene of Jerry Lewis movie, he moved the camera in a perfect way. And this is amazing, because if you see some comedy, like for example Woody Allen, that for me is like a god too, but Jerry Lewis used the camera much more better than the other one in comedy. It's not just slapstick. He used a dolly, he used a spider cam, he used all the things. And Jerry Lewis then was the first one that invented the video assist. So you have a pellicola, he was the first director that put a VHS camera near the pellicola. So he was a genius. And when I went here the first time, I was surprised, because my roots is not the American roots. If I talk about Laurel and Hardy, with some children, so with some students, they say, what? If I talk about Three Stooges, they understand. If I talk about Jerry Lewis, they don't know Jerry Lewis. So our culture is different because, for example, we don't have a lot of Bob Hope movie in Italy. We don't have a lot of Danny Kaye movie. We don't have a lot of Three Stooges movie. We have Jerry Lewis. So our tradition is very close to this. And we have a lot of actors like Totò. We have a lot of actors like Alberto Sordi or Nino Manfredi that are very close to people like Marx Brothers or Aaron Lloyd. I don't know if you remember
I
Aaron
do.
Lloyd. And not to Three Stooges, because Three Stooges for us was like a cartoon.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's fascinating.
Yes.
Returning to your experience as a writer at this point, would you take us through a brief description of your own career as a literary/scholarly writer and as a screenwriter?
Yes. Well, my career started when I was 6 years old, because with all this stuff in my mind, with all this imagination, when I have 6, maybe 7 years, I wrote like 70 fair little tales. And my teachers say, "Well, this is amazing. I want to print this book in 300 copy for you." So I was just 7 years old, and for me it was like a game. And at that time I understand that it's important to write for you, but it's important to write for the student. So some of my books are specifically for adult audience, because I like sci-fi, thriller, horror movie, horror writer like Stephen King. I love Rod Serling, the Twilight Zone creator.
Me too.
So yes, it's amazing. And so I like this kind of story. But when you write like a scholarly writer and you have a novel, you have to take care, because you don't have to use a lot of bad words. You don't have to use very difficult context. So your writer has to be very easy, and you have to take a lot of historical references. So you have to come in the student brain. And in this way, I'm a little bit like Peter Pan, because when I have to write something, I try to think like a guy that still stay in the primary school. So what do you want to know?
So it sounds like your books are basically written for a school-age audience. Is
Yes,
that correct?
this one, my own, A Private War, it's a very, very important argument, because it's talking about the war, Palestinian and Israel. And this novel talking about a friendship, Israeli guy with the Palestinian guy, that they live together in same house but in Italy. So in a crazy context, because you know the Italians are a little bit crazy. So with the different rules, with the different laws, with the different political distortions, and so they are friends. But the argument was very important, and my editor say, "Luca, you have to clean something, because there is a lot of sex in this book. There is a lot of bad words. So if you clean something and you make another version of this book, I put on the book some test for the student. So I have this test that talk about who is Arafat, when the first wars pops in Israel, and this kind of thing. It was a success, because I sold 10,000 copy of this book. For Italy is a success, because not a lot of people read the book, unfortunately, in Italy.
I'm afraid the same is true here. How about your screenwriting? What kind of screenwriting have you done?
Well, I like tragicomedia. Tragicomedia, it's a mixed fusion of tragic and comedy. In Italy, we have this tragicomedia after World War II, and we call commedia all'italiana, because the Italian people, they overcome all the situation, even the much more difficult situation like a war. So Pirandello, one of my favorite authors, say that the comic is one thing. The comic is when you laugh immediately. Humoristic is when you think. that person is ironic and comic because maybe that person have some problem. So I like to describe a man in a contest. Maybe it's funny, but why is funny? But why this man has a mask? Why this old lady looks like Marilyn Monroe, for example? So she's just funny, or maybe she has some trouble. So this is our society, because in our society, all the people put a mask in their face in the society, because you are a professor, but maybe you are a husband, you are a bad husband, but you are a good professor.
How did you know?
So, and I like this kind of thing. And then I like the noir movie, the thriller, and the first of my movie, and this book, Uomini Qualsiasi and Giorni Qualunque, it's a marron. It's a new genre that I invent. This genre is a fusion of thriller and the spy story.
Would you translate that
Yes.
title for us?
Yes, it's some particular man in some particular days. So it's like the thing that happened day by day, because I explain men that for some particular reason they are in some very strong situation that change completely their life. Mm-hmm. So or they overcome, or they get luck, or they lose. But a lot of these people are losers because they take off their mask and they show to the society their own face. And maybe the society don't want to see your face. Yes.
A very Pirandellian theme.
Yes.
Luca, you have this wonderful multifaceted background as a film director and actor, as well as a writer of all kinds of stuff, screenplays and books. Would you tell us about the relationships you've been able to observe between screenwriters and directors?
Yes. This is a relation very strong for me, because when I write something, my imagination see the movie. And this is important because when I write something, it's like synesthesia, we call, no? We can
synesthesia.
You can see the place, you can hear the sound, the music that you want to put in this book. And so frequently when I write a story, I say, maybe this story is perfect for a movie. And it's an honor for me when sometime the audience, the people, read my book and then see my movie that I based on book and say, it's the same. It's the same. It's not frequently that the book it's like the movie. So I have a very, very strong connection when I write, because I think in scene. So I see the actor, I see the relation, but of course you don't have to put a lot of dialogues on book. Then I take the book and I say, yes, this is the book and this is a good suggestion, but now I have to write the dialogues. So the dialogues, I have to go out sometime in the street and I have to see the people like they speak. So I like to follow the people. Maybe sometimes they put me in jail, I don't know. I like to follow the people, and I like to talk with the people for understand their inflection, their dialect, their way to say. So this is important when you want to do some particular movie from your book.
So when you have directed films, have you also written the screenplays for them?
Yes, the 50% of time, yes. Sometime when I work with some university or like some documentary, I just use my camera for like a pen, like a pencil. I say, I know that John Lawson is a very interesting man. I open the camera and I try to feel what he's thinking. And so it's a lot of improvisation, but time by time I use my camera like my pen. I don't know where I go. Other time, people give me some screenplay. It's true, and it's nice because you don't have to think that you are a writer. So you have, for example, in the commercial, they come with a commercial and they say that's it, because it's some particular brand that they don't want that you change. And it's funny too, because you try to understand your poetica, your way, your point of view in that screenplay that somebody else write for you. So it's nice. It's nice.
Yeah. I'm interested in your comments about how you go about making documentaries, because I've always wondered if you sort of wrote a script first and then went to video, or whether you just collected video. It sounds like that's the case.
See, the documentary, you know the history. In the documentary, I love sometimes the legend. So I open the door with the legend. For example, the Brigandade, we have this bad period in the 1861 after our unification until 1898, 1900. So we have this bad criminal story. And for some people they were like heroes, for other one they are just criminal. So I take the story and I put the frame. This is the story, but I want to talk about the legend. So the legend can open you in the documentary some way that where you can put your background too. So if I interview you, I have to be a good director, because sometimes and good screenwriter, because sometimes I'm able to let you say what I want to hear. So I have some basic question, I have some basic story, but then sometimes I interview people that they are very shy. You speak with them on the phone and they say, yes, because me, this thing. Then you go there and they are shy. So you have to understand the key to open that door.
Yes.
And it's not very easy. So a good documentary has to be a good psychologist, a good analyst.
Yeah. Who are your heroes? We talked about your early influences, but as you've matured as a writer and a person involved with film, who stand out as major role models and heroes for you?
Yes, I like, for example, Kafka, Franz Kafka. He's one of my heroes, and his character sound to me very, very new, because I started to read Kafka when I was 12, 13. It's not easy. Or like Marcel Proust. Marcel Proust, you take and then you leave, then you take and then you leave, then you take and then you leave. For example, I have this Thoreau.
Thoreau, yeah.
Thoreau
Walden.
is wonderful for me, because it's a sense of the freedom. So in some particular time of my life, I take some book that can give me some suggestion. But before this, I like to read the biography of the author, because I'm first interested in what they think, what are the contests, and then I open the book. For example, one of my author that I like is Cornel Woolrich. Cornel Woolrich is a spy story thriller guy, and he lived like Master Proust all the life alone, and he just write. But he has such imagination that I say, how this man could be think like this one. If you read Virginia Woolf biography, if you read Franz Kafka biography, if you think, you understand that sometimes the crazy people are genius. So, and I like Jack Kerouac. I like Kerouac. I like Charles Bukowski. And I love this guy, but they have a very crazy life. Wow.
Yeah,
So I don't say that they are my heroes, but some of their character, some of their book are for me, leave to me a great imprinting in my way to see the life.
Interesting. And how about, I hate to put you on the spot, it's an unfair question, but if you could name one or two Italian directors who've been major
Yes,
influences
absolutely.
on you.
I love. It's not very famous, but I love Franco Zurlini. He was a documentarist, and he made a very, very amazing movie, The First Night of Calm, with Alain Delon in 1971. And the same trench that Alain Delon have is the same that Marlon Brando used in the Last Tango in Paris.
Trench coat?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
the same one.
Interesting.
The same one. And I love this director that the people sometimes forgive, like Giuseppe De Santis. He was one of the neorealism father, and I love Vittorio De Sica.
Mm-hmm.
All know of Vittorio De Sica much more than Rossellini. And I love Visconti, but I love Visconti because he's a very, very, a very Hollywood touch sometimes. He made this movie about Ludwig II of Baviera that you have to see this movie. But
I'm just watching it, as a matter of
the
fact.
director's cut, you have to see.
Well, I actually am not sure about that. I just got it on VHS,
It's
an old
amazing.
VHS
and,
I picked up.
And then you want to go in Munich and see this castle. Is amazing. Is amazing. And then I love Sergio Leone. Sergio Leone was the last one that invented something in Italy. The last director. He invented the spaghetti western. And the people think in Italy that he came from America. And he's, yes, because you know, when you sound like American, the people say, he's America, I want to go to see this movie. And the first